This is a very dark, it's a very disturbing case.
No red flags came up.
He was the nicest guy you could ever really meet.
Let my fantasies get away with me. I dreamed of kidnapping women and raping them.
There was no doubt in my mind that this man was capable of anything.
I've tortured girls in ways that I'm not very proud of.
It was all about his sexual gratification through an immense amount of pain from his victim.
He had a special place he was going to take me.
She probably would have never come out had she ever been put in there.
This was quite disturbing.
You want to know how I developed this rather bizarre fetish? It's a long story, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible.
Elephant Butte, New Mexico, 150 miles south of Albuquerque. This area, known as the Diamond in the Desert, sits alongside the state's largest recreational lake. In the spring of 1999, a 911 call transformed this idyllic vacation spot into the Rio Grande's most troubled reservoir.
On March 22nd, 1999, I was on duty that day, and I was at the sheriff's office at the jail. Went into the dispatch center. I was doing some kind of paperwork in there, and I remember the dispatcher receiving the 911 call.
Hello? Hello?
3 days into her captivity, Cynthia Vigil seized on a rare opportunity for escape when her abductor left to take a phone call.
She grabbed the phone and ran to the back of the trailer down the hall, and I don't think she realized she left the keys on the coffee table. I got the table towards me with my foot, and I got the keys. I knew I didn't have much time.
Chained to a wall with a collar around her neck, those were literally the keys to her freedom. But with mere seconds before the woman guarding her returned, she needed to act fast.
She came back from getting her phone call, and she realized I had the keys and I was trying to get loose. She beat me with the lamp, and every time she hit me with the lamp, I could see black. I just thought she was gonna knock me out. It wasn't stopping me from trying the lock. And when the lock came loose, I pulled the chain through. When I went to stand up, I grabbed the ice pick and the phone off the bed, and I dialed 911.
Hello? 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 Hello?
We were still tussling, and I stabbed her with the ice pick. And then the phone hangs up.
We got a 911 hang-up on David S. Parker. It's on Bath Road somewhere. We're trying to find out. Call back, the line's busy. I can hear things crashing in the background.
The dispatcher called the number again. A female had answered and said that, "Don't worry about sending the police," and then hung up.
Hello? We got a 911 hang-up call from out there. Is everything all right?
Yeah.
Because we got officers on the way out there.
I'm sorry, everything's fine.
Okay, I got a buddy that called and they answered. She said everything was fine, but it didn't sound it. The address is 513 Bath Road. I told her I was having officers on the way, and she said okay, but she didn't seem like she liked it.
Just kept running till I found a trailer that looked like somebody was home. And I ran, and I just busted in their trailer, like ran in their door. And it was an elderly lady doing dishes. She was shocked.
There was another 911 call that came in.
911? Yes, I'm calling for a young lady that ran into the house.
She had a woman inside of her living room with no clothes on and had a metal collar around her neck with a padlock on it.
Has she just been ready? Had she called up and dialed 911 and then hung up? Oh, dialed 911. Okay, somebody. Okay.
I was in a lot of pain. I had blood everywhere. My wrist and my ankles were raw from hanging from the ceiling. There wasn't a part of my body where I didn't have glass stuck in it.
I responded out to the residents, did a perimeter check on the outside, and then we gained entry into the house, which was a single-wide mobile home with a couple additions that were built on. Once we cleared the house, we were coming back through, and we discovered that there was a hospital bed with chains hanging from a pulley system from the ceiling and spreader bars. Next to the bed, there was an older style lamp that had the green glass bulb that was broken. It was on the ground. And then the telephone was right there also. There was a candelabra that was on the ground that had a dildo that was on it, and then it had spikes coming out the bottom of it. Once we started discovering this, and there was dedication to this type of activity in just about every room, we decided to close up the residence.
Moments later, Under Sheriff Elston received a radio call that the homeowner, David Parker Ray, was headed back to his residence. Just a half-mile away from Ray's home, Elston caught up with him and conducted a traffic stop.
I stopped him in his RV, got him out of his RV, and I told him that he was being placed in investigative detention. I took him over to the state parks office where they established a command post there.
David Parker Ray and his girlfriend, Cindy Hindy, were taken into custody, separated into different rooms, and questioned by New Mexico authorities.
They had David Parker Ray and Cindy Hindy detained. The lead investigator asked that I go to the boat office and photograph David Ray and Cindy Hindy. David Ray was very compliant and docile, relaxed, did what I asked. And then I went into Cindy Hindy and photographed her injuries, and she was kind of agitated.
Later, the state police went back out there with the search warrant, and they started searching the house.
Within hours of David Parker Ray's arrest, more than 100 state and federal agents descended on his Elephant Butte home. They sealed off his property and began their work.
That's when they found the Koenig box in the back of the residence.
We are currently at 513 Bass Road.
Beside Ray's main residence stood a windowless motor home that was dubbed the Toy Box.
The toy box was on this side where you see the propane tank. There's some sheds in the back and some other vehicles parked around. It appeared to us initially these were placed for concealment purposes when his victims were taken from a vehicle or from his house into the toy box. The neighbors around would be concealed from seeing that movement.
I was in charge of the New Mexico State Police. They set up the crime scene, and they were able to go and start methodically walking through the toy box.
This is David Parker Ray's travel trailer, the Toy Box.
Inside, a gynecologist chair wired to deliver electric shock. Straps hung from the ceiling, investigators said, to stretch victims into virtually any position.
When you sit down as a criminal investigator, you try to go in with an open mind. Having been briefed by not only the chief, but the detectives as well, they felt early on that this required immediate attention.
I think of myself as pretty crusty when it comes to crime scenes. This was quite disturbing.
There was insertion devices. He had all kinds of sizes, lengths, diameters. He had bolts in the ceiling, the floor, where he could put a female in a kind of an X shape. And then he did a lot of drawings. He initially would learn to draw by tracing printed material.
On the walls, there were pencil drawings of women being tortured. On the table, there were like hand tools like pliers, ice pick, a small torch, tweezers.
He also had a coffin in that room.
This carpet-lined homemade coffin was in his home. Inside, a blanket and pillow, and a fan for ventilation.
Whenever he was done, he would put them inside, he would close it, and he would lock it. And there's no way out.
It was very clear from everybody who was involved that this is the mind of a very sick and twisted individual, and this was not the first time that this had happened.
There was a recording and video device that was in there also.
There was a cassette tape player in the living room, and there was a lot of the introductory tapes.
Okay, bitch. We both know what you've been brought here for. Your wrists and ankles are chained, and you're gagged because you're not going to like the way I do it.
There were several versions of them.
You're going to be kept here, naked and chained down. I'm going to use you for a sex slave.
What he's going to do with his captive.
You're going to be tied or chained in different positions, whipped, raped repeatedly.
He would explain to the victim what was going to be taking place, and then he would do it.
And if you pass out while I'm doing this shit, I'll revive you. I want you to feel every second of it.
He would leave his victim tied up in the dark and leave that tape playing and just leave her there alone to add to her anxiety levels.
When I heard that tape, there was no doubt in my mind that this man was capable of anything. The tens of thousands of dollars that he spent on that toy box, I don't think there's anybody that was there that would have thought for a minute he wasn't capable of murder and mass murder.
As investigators discovered more about this twisted scene, Undersheriff Elston received a phone call that Cynthia had arrived at the hospital and was ready to tell her story.
I was 21 when this happened to me. I ran into an acquaintance of mine, and he told me some guy wanted to meet me. So I went with him, and he took me to the RV. I had got in the front seat of the RV, and he pulled out a badge and told me I was under arrest. Something inside me told me he wasn't a cop.
David Parker Ray worked as a mechanic at the New Mexico State Parks for Elephant Butte. The uniforms that the state park rangers wear could be taken as a police officer's uniform.
He had put a handcuff on one of my arms, and I tried to get away, and he yelled out, "Cindy," and I froze because I didn't give him that name.
Turns out David Parker Ray wasn't shouting for Cynthia Vigil. He was calling his girlfriend, Cindy Hendy.
Cindy Hendy came out from behind a closet space in the RV, and she shocked me at the cattle prod. They kept trying to make me drink this pint of hot damn. Later to find out it had phenobarbital and sodium pentanol.
David Ray had some substance for some medication combined with alcohol.
They took all my clothes off me inside the RV. He walked me from the RV to the trailer in broad daylight, and no one seen me. Was there anybody in that neighborhood? I was thinking, I didn't know what to think. They walked me into the trailer and sat me on a twin bed. He put a metal collar around my neck with a padlock and a chain, and he padlocked it to the pole. I was in the trailer for 3 days. I remember most of it. He told me, if you do everything that I say, you'll be let go.
I'm not going to touch you up or do anything that'll cause serious injury. And don't worry about being killed. I don't plan to do that either. As long as you don't know me, you don't present a risk.
The first thing I remember happening was he connected these clamps, and then he started playing with the battery, and it sent shocks to my body. Long shocks, short shocks, hard ones, soft ones. He did that for about 2 hours. I went through a lot. I had hung from a ceiling by my wrist. I was beat with leather whips. The more I hurt, the more he got off.
You will probably scream a lot, and that is exactly what I want you to do. It's what turns me on.
The day I escaped, I remember that morning, she made him breakfast like any other day. They had the TV on, and they were acting like a normal, regular couple. And he came and sat on the bed where I was at, and he told me that I had been a good girl, and he was gonna take the handcuffs and shackles off me. So he took those off, and the chain that was bolted to the wall, he loosened it. And he put a bucket next to the bed, and he told me that was my bathroom for the day. And when he got home, he had a special place he was gonna take me.
I remember learning from Cindy Handy that the plans that evening were to take Cynthia Vigil and put her in the toy box. She probably would have never come out had she ever been put in there.
Cynthia is the reason why we even started this entire investigation and why we even know the name David Parker Ray. And the evil that is David Parker Ray was revealed. David Parker Ray was from New Mexico. He was raised in a little town called Mountain Air. Tiny, tiny community.
It was kind of stunning to know that I knew this guy, David Parker Ray. I would take my unit out to his shop at Elephant Butte where he would do some minor repairs on it. It's a remote location. It's a pretty deserted area.
They were shocked. A lot of them knew David Ray from his work at state parks.
He was the nicest guy you could ever really meet. Just as friendly and outgoing and helpful as possible.
He just seemed to be just another guy that lives at Elephant Butte, that just had a very, very dark and evil secret.
All right, Cindy, do you have anything to say?
Well, I'm innocent.
You and David did not kidnap the young woman?
No, I did not.
Cindy Hindi was the girlfriend of David Parker Ray. They were co-workers together and struck up a romantic relationship.
Cops were familiar with Cindy Hindi too. But unlike Ray, who appeared to be a friendly face, she had her share of run-ins with the law.
Prior to all this, she was going from pretty much place to place wherever she could find, and we'd always get called to those locations because of her being intoxicated and getting into a fight with other male subjects. And then it seemed like she disappeared off the map.
The media descended on the tiny town of Elephant Butte to learn more about her twisted relationship with David Parker Ray.
Cindy says she's innocent. How about you? Are you innocent, sir? What actually happened? Did she volunteer? Was she a willing participant?
I need to talk to David before I actually say anything further, because I don't want to get hurt.
Who would hurt you? Do you have anything to say about your innocence?
It didn't happen that way.
Are you saying that the young woman voluntarily did everything? You didn't do anything wrong?
No, I didn't. I just...
What about all the stuff they're finding inside the house, they say?
I was already there before I was there.
The sex stuff had nothing to do with you?
No, it was there till about a month ago.
Police say that you watched on as it all took place.
A lot of the information was now starting to come out. There was a lot of fear.
Investigators in New Mexico are not ruling out the possibility that an investigation into kidnapping and sexual torture will soon become an investigation into serial murder.
The case kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the days went on. Another female came forward.
Her name was Angelica Montano. She was a local gal that lived in this area.
She was abducted, held for 3 days, and at the end of that 3 days, according to Cindy Hindi, David planned on killing her and disposing of her body. And Cindy said she talked David out of killing her if Angelica would agree and promise to not report it. They took her out and dumped her off.
She didn't keep that promise. Yet police lost an opportunity to learn about David Parker Ray 1 month before he abducted Cynthia Vigil.
She was picked up by a deputy sheriff out of Luna County. He turned around and gave her a ride back to town. During this time, she was telling him that she'd been kidnapped and raped at a residence in Elephant Butte, but wasn't sure where it happened at.
He said, I'll take you to the state police office in Socorro and you can report it. But she declined and just wanted to go to her house in Albuquerque, so he dropped her off somewhere in Albuquerque.
The deputy didn't notify anybody about it.
You know those alligator clips they have? Those little ones? He put them on my nipples, them down there, and he shocked me.
I get frustrated sometimes that we didn't learn earlier and maybe could have stopped him before he hurt other people.
Soon after Angelica came forward, the FBI found a 6-minute videotape of a young woman who'd been strapped down to a black bench press and made blind and speechless with duct tape.
They were able to identify her through a tattoo on the side of her right leg.
That tattoo helped police identify the woman as Kelly Van Cleve. She was alive and living in Colorado.
And she couldn't remember a lot about it. I think she had suppressed it.
Kelly told state police that she didn't know David Parker Ray, but knew his daughter, Glenda Ray. She called her Jessie. Police were stunned to learn there may be another accomplice.
It was amazing to find out how many individuals were involved with it.
Jessie became part of this investigation probably within a week. Her name started coming up.
Glenda Jessie Ray rode a Harley-Davidson motorcycle and would always be at the bars.
Then as time went on, information came in that she would abduct or help her dad abduct female victims. They called the victims packages. So David Ray would say about every 3rd month, I'm ready for a package. And that meant, let's go out and find a victim.
I, like many who were involved in that case, believe she's just as equally involved and played just as big a role as David Parker Ray, because she would help her father find victims.
When I talk to her, I sense a very hard and cold person inside that's wise to the system.
Yet another potential accomplice surfaced when investigators learned a missing 22-year-old mother had spent the days before her disappearance in a tent owned by David Parker Ray.
I followed up with the missing person of Marie Parker. I started tracking down Marie's acquaintances, where she lived, where she went. She disappeared from the Blue Waters Saloon, or bar, out at Elephant Butte, and her car was left abandoned there, and that's kind of where the investigation started and ended back in 1997. The main person connected to her relating to this investigation was Roy Yancey. Marie was his wife. And I couldn't find any documentation to support that, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, anything like that. And then I found out it was common up here to refer to your girlfriend as wife.
We found photographs of Roy Yancey with Cindy Hindy and David Parker Ray. Roy would often hang out over at his house.
When detectives asked Cindy Hindy about the disappearance of Marie Parker, she insisted Roy was responsible.
We're getting information from Cindy Hindy and different other interviews that Roy actually killed Marie Parker. It was time to pull him in. Roy Yancey had told me that he was actually seeing Cindy Hindy first, and they were into bondage stuff, and somewhere along the line he befriended David Ray. Roy disclosed that he was sitting in the living room of David Ray's house on about the third day of the abduction. Marie Parker was lying nude on this cot on the floor, and then they said, "We're done with her." They gave him a rope, and they told him, "You know what you need to do." David Ray then said, "If you ever say anything, the same thing's going to happen to you."
To this day, we still have not found Marie Parker.
As investigators continued to chase leads, they kept coming up empty-handed.
Immediately recognized that this is something that we had never encountered before. From the experience, the emotion, the stomach turning, we knew that we had a case that could go in directions just unimaginable.
Other women who lived in that area claimed to have been victims of David Parker Ray.
I assumed there was other victims just by the rules that he had written on the walls. It sounded like he did it all the time.
There's a lot of indication in his property of victims. There were some handwritten notes, slave sale. They would name the front name Alice. They'd describe her physically, how many times used, $3,500 for her.
There was a little girl that they were talking about. They had this notebook and they were making plans for a little girl to be their sex slave. At the hospital, I remember I kept saying, "Go check on the little girl, make sure they don't get that little girl."
I prefer very young girls, between 13 and 16.
He kept a sex log. I think there was about 40 victims. He showed dates of abduction, how many times they were sexually assaulted, but again, no identifiers.
I've tortured girls in ways that I'm not very proud of. When I'm pissed off, I don't mind having blood all over the place, and sometimes they didn't survive.
Cindy Hindy told police Ray disposed of bodies in the desert and in Elephant Butte Lake.
He had pretty much total access to all the state parks. He had the keys to all the gates. He was very familiar with all the area around the remote areas. He had police radio scanners. He knew where the police were at all times. So if he needed to go out and dispose of a body, he could do it and not be detected. He's pretty close to the lake here. He had two boats, a motorized boat and a sailboat on the property.
David Parker Ray was likely a serial rapist and likely a serial killer.
Likely, because investigators would have a very hard time proving it.
There was a map of Elephant Butte Lake that had little red marks in certain locations on the water.
Was that really David Parker Ray indicating where bodies were? Or was it David Parker Ray's attempt to throw law enforcement off if he were ever to be discovered?
Police dive teams searched the vast lake, but again, came up empty.
They did some sonars to the lake, but at the time it was too deep and nothing was located.
We did learn that he had a key place that he went to, which is Kettle Top, which is going to be on the opposite side of the lake. And we suspected, and as per the profilers, that he may hide trophies or victims there. So we searched it pretty thoroughly with nothing remarkable being found.
I believe there's bodies.
John Branagh knows Cindy Hindy. He says she told him Parker had other victims, at least some of whom he killed.
She had told me in the same story that She knows of 4 to 6 bodies that David told her he has put in that lake.
It's interesting because David Parker Ray is now referred to as the toy box killer, and not a single body has ever been found.
At least not a single body that was ever pinned on Ray, but several have been linked to him.
The execution-style murder of Phoenix businessman Billy Ray Bowers is at the top of the list. His body floated to the surface of Elephant Butte Lake in September 1989.
Billy Ray Bowers went missing from a Phoenix car repair shop on September 25, 1988. His body was found a year later in Elephant Butte Lake with a bullet wound to the head.
When they were doing a background of David Parker Ray, they discovered that he had worked for a car dealership in Arizona, and that the decedent that was found in Elephant Butte was David Parker Ray's supervisor at that dealership.
Bowers was shot once in the back of the head. His death remained a mystery for a decade. But when David Parker Ray was arrested in March 1999, investigators began to connect the dots.
This is a very dark, it's a very disturbing case for every single person who's involved. But we also have to recognize that there may be more victims across this country who have fallen prey to David Parker Ray.
As investigators continued their search for those potential victims, Ray's trial began on March 28, 2000.
The trial happened in Torrance County in the city of Moriarty. David Parker Ray sat at a council table and was very calm.
He was real smug. He didn't care. It was no big deal to him.
Ray faced 3 separate trials for the abduction and rape of Kelly Van Cleve, Angelica Montano, and Cynthia Vigil. He was not being tried for any murders.
It broke me in a way. I was real nervous to be in public. And then I realized that I was staying as a victim. I had to turn it into something for me, like I wasn't as a victim no more.
The surviving victims who did come forward in this case, in my eyes, are heroes because they had the unthinkable done to them.
It's like a reminder. It says, remember, a woman will do or say anything to get loose. They will, kick, bite, scream, threaten, scratch, yell, run, lie, offer money, beg, offer sex, wait for opportunity.
Nobody wants to relive that horror. All they want to do is make it go away.
He made a deal with the prosecution so his daughter would get off very lightly, if any charges at all.
We offered up, I will tell you everything you want to know as long as you release her. And that was the agreement. So she was released, and he never told us nothing.
He plea bargained for his daughter to be free, and I didn't think it was fair.
Glenda Jessie Ray was tried on charges of kidnapping. She was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, but served no jail time. Instead, she only spent 5 years on probation.
Took a plea bargain stating that I kidnapped somebody on the back of my motorcycle. Now that in itself sounds kind of ludicrous.
Dennis Roy Yancey is serving a 20-year sentence for killing an Elephant Butte woman named Marie Parker. He says David Ray forced him to commit the murder and that Jesse held a gun to his head. Neither were ever charged in that crime.
Why would Mr. Yancey lie? Why would he implicate you and your dad in a murder that he pleaded guilty to?
Well, I never had any beef with Roy. I've never done anything but help him out.
Yancey is the only one that actually went to prison for murder.
Cindy Hendy took a plea deal, and so hers went pretty quickly. She had to testify against David Parker Ray.
We would pick her up from the jail and take her out, and it's okay, point out where David Ray pointed out victims are buried. It was always like driving down the road. I think it's over there by those hills over there. Well, I think it's over here. Okay, we'll drive down that road and you can point it out to us. But she never could. And I don't think it was because she was being vague with us. I think she just never knew.
Then at the end, she didn't testify against David Parker Ray.
Cindy Hendy pleaded guilty to kidnapping, criminal sexual penetration, and conspiracy to kidnap. She was sentenced to 36 years in prison.
During one time, David Ray was going through trial. He had a heart attack, so there was a postponement. Eventually, he was, of course, convicted and sentenced.
David Parker Ray received a prison sentence of 224 years.
He knew he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
The profilers always talked about he may relinquish information one day to law enforcement. David Ray would be transferred to Southern Correction Facility here by Las Cruces, where I'm out of. About once a week, I would go out there. I didn't want to seem overly anxious.
So you want to know how I developed this rather bizarre fetish? It's a long story, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible.
What he disclosed to me, his grandparents raised him. His dad, a truck driver, he said, would drop off pornography. As long as he can remember, he was always fascinated with phallic objects.
My dad was a truck driver. He came by the place every few months, and he liked to read detective magazines. And he always had 8 or 10 of them in the truck, and he'd drop them off. Detective magazines cater mainly to stories of rape and atrocities performed on women. That was my main reading source. And being young and horny, I figured out that being as shy as I was, to kidnap and rape a woman would be the only way that I could get one.
And there was actually a note. The handwriting looks like his, so by all accounts it came from him. But it said something like he was doing well for 7 years, and then Viagra came, and it brought the demons back with a vengeance. And then at the bottom said, "Help me." He had this uncontrollable urge in him that he was trying to fight.
I let my fantasies get away with me. I dreamed of kidnapping women and raping them, fantasizing about how I would use the chains and equipment on women.
On May 28, 2002, David Parker Ray died after serving only 1 year in prison, and he took all of his secrets to the grave.
I was happy that he wasn't going to be able to do it again. People expected me to be mad that he died, and that everyone's like, oh, he got off easy. And to me, it was like, why are you guys upset that he died? He can't do it to nobody else, and we're not paying to keep him alive anymore.
A lot of people were very happy that he had died. On that level, I wasn't, because I thought there's only 2 sources of information, and he's the main source where we can bring closure. He could have probably brought 100% closure.
We're disappointed in the fact that we've lost that very valuable resource and one that we had been working on.
State Police Captain Glenn Thomas says a police criminologist was getting close to Ray, building trust in hopes of cracking unsolved murders.
I always felt like David Parker Ray, even if it was over time and gradually, would disclose where these bodies were located. I'm saddened that he took that with him to the grave. I'm saddened not for him, I'm saddened for the families.
In 2011, almost a decade after David Parker Ray's death, the FBI reopened the unsolved case of an Albuquerque woman missing for 16 years. She had been in a relationship with Ray's daughter, Jessie.
It was in 1995 when Jill Troya went missing.
She was in a relationship with Jesse, and to my understanding, Jesse broke it off.
According to Jesse, they had gotten into an argument, and they were at the Frontier restaurant, which is right here in Albuquerque.
Jill was kind of heartbroken by it and became a vulnerable victim.
In the police report that was taken, the last person she's seen with is Jessie, and she's never been seen again.
Investigators found a description of a woman in Ray's detailed accounts of sexual tortures, a description that fits Troya. Search teams were sent around Elephant Butte Reservoir and nearby caves, but came up empty.
I've always felt like from the minute that I read that police report that Jill Troya was one of David Parker Ray's victims, who unfortunately is still buried out there somewhere. He also kept a lot of mementos, the treasures. Many of them, as that was released in 2011 by the FBI, they're still using them to try to find other victims as well.
That search for victims continues to this day. And as known survivors of David Parker Ray still suffer the mental and physical wounds of what they endured.
I'm just going on with my life, trying to make it day by day.
Cindy Hindy walks free. She was released on July 15th, 2019, without parole, having served only half of her sentence.
Cindy Handy got released with no probation, no parole, no nothing. She has to register as a sex offender, but she's not put on the public site.
I was told that she moved out of the state, but have no idea where she even is. I feel bad for the folks in Elephant Butte because it's a much better community than anything David Parker Ray could do. But unfortunately, it's a cloud that will hang over that community for a very long time. When we think of like American crime stories, David Parker Ray is likely one of the most sick and twisted predators in a catalog of deeply disturbed people.
What has turned me on is fear. I basically feed off of it.
It is one of the scariest cases ever to come before this judicial district. What was done to these women is absolutely unconscionable. This is an individual who led, in essence, a double life, who had a lot going for him. Apparently, he had a loving family. He served time in the military, was given the opportunity to go to school, but he sought out evil. Like a wolf, he was a predator. He was a sexually violent predator. He preyed upon these women at the most vulnerable time, and that is when they were sleeping in their home.
It's described as pure evil. That's a good description.
Golden, Colorado. A former gold rush town, this scenic area sits in the rolling hills of the Rockies. In January of 2011, this quaint neighborhood became a hunting ground for a serial sexual predator who was stalking unsuspecting single women in the Denver area, spending weeks learning their schedules and waiting for the perfect moment to creep into their homes.
If you want to find targets, handle it at home.
A disturbing call to 911 would reveal just how ruthless he was.
The call came in from a woman who had said that someone had entered her home and raped her. There was still some snow on the ground. We were able to see some shoe prints all over the place, and there was one that was pretty consistent all around the victim's apartment. The victim was in her 20s, a college student. She was composed, calm, cool, collected, ready to tell her story.
A real-life horror story, unlike any that Detective Stacy Galbraith had ever heard before.
It was 7:50 in the morning. She was awoken to a man who came in to her bedroom, and he had a mask on, had a gun, and told her not to scream or he would shoot her.
The masked assailant held her down, bound her, and sexually assaulted her for 4 hours. Somehow, she managed to keep her wits about her, hoping to get information on her attacker.
Everyone kind of has a different reaction. You kind of be paralyzed with fear, and start screaming, right? Others would, be quiet.
She realized at some point in this assault that she was not going to be able to stop it. And so she would engage him in conversations.
She asked him questions about himself, just trying to figure out who this person is. The way he spoke to her, he had a pretty militaristic demeanor, pretty authoritative. She thought he was 6'1", 6'2", 180 pounds. She described his stomach as like a 3-month pregnant belly, his shoes as being an Adidas. She was able to look at his eyes and tell they were a lighter color, either a hazel, bluish green, something like that.
She also recalled one more distinct feature.
His pants were up or off, and she was able to see some type of mark on his calf. She didn't know if it was a birthmark, but it was some kind of round, egg-shaped, brownish in color mark on his leg.
As the victim was taking mental pictures of her attacker, he was taking pictures of his own. As if the assault itself wasn't traumatizing enough, he used a pink Sony CyberShot camera to snap a series of photos.
Before he left, he had her shower. He had her do things to remove any type of evidence, DNA and prints, things that we're looking for to identify somebody.
In other words, he was good at it, and that had police very worried.
Based off of his attention to removal of evidence, I had a strong feeling that this particular perpetrator had offended before.
Detective Galbraith was right, but she had no idea just how big this case was going to become.
At the time, my husband was working at Westminster Police Department. When I got home, I told him about the case, and he told me that they had had a similar case, and I'm just like, no way, that can't even be possible.
What started as a discussion about work led the two to believe this assault may have been linked to other attacks in the area.
We were advised that there may be a linkage between sexual assault in Golden and potentially other sexual assaults in surrounding jurisdictions.
There's definitely a rhythm. There's definitely a time pattern of when I'm normal and when I'm rape guy.
I sent out this kind of blast to a group of investigators to see, hey, can you guys check all of your cases? Is there anything that is somewhat similar to what we have? And I gave some details as far as MO, and someone had said, hey, you need to talk to Detective Hendershot because she has one similar to that.
6 months prior to the Golden attack, a masked intruder came through the window of a 59-year-old woman living alone in Westminster, Colorado. He sexually assaulted her for hours. 10 months before that, in Aurora, Colorado, a 65-year-old reported being raped by a masked man who tied her up, took pictures, and threatened to post them online. Then, the assailant stole her pink Sony CyberShot camera.
It was that camera that was described by the victim in the Golden case that we were able to definitively link those together.
The methods to the sexual assault were all very similar. He used photography on all of them.
And he meticulously cleaned all of the crime scenes. But he made simple yet costly mistakes in both Aurora and Westminster.
He would come in with gloves, and he wasn't able to perform sexual acts with gloves, and so he would remove the gloves. It was the Westminster one where he told her to shower off. She had to stay in the shower for a certain amount of time. The victim in that particular case indicated, well, how would I know when I can leave? There was a timer that he used, a kitchen timer.
Simply turning that timer left valuable evidence.
In Aurora, there was a teddy bear that was on a TV that got knocked down. He touched the teddy bear, he had removed the gloves, and probably didn't think that a teddy bear would leave DNA, but in fact it did.
Being a woman and just knowing that there's somebody like this out there that we can't get our hands on, it was scary, and it was very frustrating because we had some evidence, but it's like we just didn't have enough evidence.
So they reached out to other local jurisdictions.
The criminalist for Westminster reached out to somebody at Lakewood, kind of the next city over. Hey, can you guys check your records for anything? This is, what we're dealing with in Golden, Aurora, and Westminster. Well, Lakewood came back with a case.
It was the fourth case Detective Galbraith learned about, but this one had a very different outcome. Just 1 month before the Westminster attack, a woman who lived alone was startled awake by a noise in her hallway. A masked intruder holding a knife entered the room and straddled her. He attempted to bind her wrists, but she refused to go down without a fight.
She began to scream for her spiritual leader in a way that he believed there was someone else in the house. He went to check the house in fear that maybe there was someone else in there. At that point, she saw the opportunity and dove out of a window and was severely injured. Broken ribs and some back injuries.
He didn't sexually assault her because of, she escaped. But everything leading up to that was consistent with what we knew to have happened in all three of the cases that we knew about already.
4 violent attacks over 2 years, all led to one unknown suspect. Although he was good at covering his tracks, investigators were a formidable foe, and the hunter was now the hunted.
There wasn't any DNA found in the house. As I recall, there was some foot impressions that were outside the house where he had fled.
There were a lot of shoe prints in the Lakewood case. We immediately noted that the shoe print was consistent with the Golden shoe print. So we had DNA in Aurora and Westminster. We had shoe prints in Golden and Lakewood, and we had the glove prints in Lakewood and Westminster as well. At that complex in Golden, there was one surveillance camera in the area. There was a business at the corner, which is actually the closest to the victim's apartment. We got a copy of all their footage, and it was not good footage. It was grainy. You could get a feel for the type of vehicle. Is it a truck? Is it a car? One of the vehicles was a white Mazda truck, and it had been seen about 10 times between midnight and 5 a.m.
It appeared to be the same truck that was reported near another crime scene.
The criminalist for Lakewood said that she had found a report that was called in by a resident of a neighborhood in Lakewood, and it was just a suspicious vehicle. When she was talking about it, she held it up. I knew right then that that was the truck I saw on the Golden surveillance video from midnight to 5 a.m. That was the break that we had been looking for. Mark O'Leary was the registered owner of the vehicle.
Police had their first suspect, although his name didn't raise any red flags. 32-year-old Mark O'Leary, an Army veteran with no criminal history. He was studying at Red Rocks Community College.
My first impression of Mark O'Leary was he was extremely intelligent. He was my student for one semester in Introduction to Philosophy. He probably about 6'1", I would guess, and he was blonde, and he was, I think, early 30s at the time. So his appearance was college student, t-shirts, jeans.
His appearance may have been right out of college central casting, but Professor Melinda Wilding says his schoolwork was not.
Kind of a reflective journal is what this was, asking students to address something they felt that is repressed, and I usually always say share as you will. Most people answer things like, oh, I'm shy, or I have certain things in my family history. Mark's essay was more revealing, but not, by saying he wouldn't tell me what it was. I don't believe that a person can fully extinguish their own shadows. Instead, it is best to take 100% responsibility for who we are and to integrate our shadows into our conscious awareness. So the inner shadow is obviously his alter ego, and the essay absolutely reveals the psyche of somebody in our midst who was dangerous. The essay was in his belongings.
Belongings that police were anxious to look through. But to get a warrant, they needed more evidence. So they put his home under surveillance.
Some investigators believed that they had seen Mark leave the house in the white truck. So they followed it to a diner, and it was a guy matching the description of Mark O'Leary and also matching the description given by the assault victims. They went in after he left, and they were able to collect some items to get that guy's DNA.
Turns out that guy was the wrong guy. Investigators back at the house learned that when they knocked on the door.
2 agents knocked on the door, and lo and behold, it was actually Mark O'Leary that came to the door, and he identified that his brother had taken his truck, and he lived there with his brother. So that kind of threw us for a bit of a loop, in that the DNA that we had, if those 2 brothers share the same father, it could be either one of them.
The DNA investigators pulled from the diner was a match to the crime scenes.
This happened very quickly. We got the DNA match on Saturday, and early Sunday morning, I think we met at 6 a.m. We knocked and announced at the house for the search warrant.
Police had just one last piece to complete the puzzle, to make sure Mark was the O'Leary they were looking for.
The DNA came from the male lineage of the family, and we knew he had a brother. So one of the things that we had to do was to make sure that he wasn't, in fact, the individual who was responsible for these crimes.
When I knocked on the door, it was Mark O'Leary that came to the door. The first thing I said to him was to come out with his hands up. I identified myself as law enforcement, and he opened the door and stepped out with me. I just saw all the blood in his face drain. It went white, pale, and then kind of came a blue color. You could tell the world as he knew it was not going to be the same. I patted him down. That's when I was able to see the mark on his leg.
We determined that the birthmark was in fact the same birthmark as described by the victim in Golden.
That's when I had him put his hands behind his back and arrested him.
I got the warrant, so they're going to be executing it today and searching for a lot of evidentiary items in our case. It's going to be involving stuff that may belong to my victim, stuff that will identify you.
They took all day to search the house.
And what they found was a treasure trove of damning evidence. Lockpicks, pocket knives, a handgun, gloves with prints matching those found at the crime scene, Adidas sneakers, same size as the assailants, and a collection of women's underwear hidden in a speaker, and a pink Sony CyberShot camera.
When we found the materials that we did, then one was hidden in a speaker, the rape kit, and the camera, then there was no question.
Any kind of evidence that is bad for your case, they had.
Mark O'Leary was charged with sexual assault, kidnapping, menacing, and burglary.
There was a sense of relief because this individual was off the streets. He wasn't going to rape and terrorize anybody else, but we were also very focused on trying to make sure that we had all our victims.
There were other victims. Police searching through O'Leary's photos would learn he violently assaulted 2 women while living in Washington State years earlier. One was an 18-year-old who reported being raped in her home, only to be charged for making a false report by police who did not believe her. Her story became the basis for the Netflix series Unbelievable.
There's certain cases that are just so abhorrent in their nature, no one should give a plea offer. And that was this particular case. To do anything less than have him plead guilty would be to diminish the seriousness of the offense.
My impression at sentencing was that he was glad he got caught, that he knew that he needed to be stopped. Not from anything that he told me, but just from his statements that he made in closing.
I'm standing here because I need to be in prison. I know that probably more than any person in this room.
I think there was a deep sense of remorse, coupled with, I think, a compulsion that he just wasn't able to stop.
Almost 3.5 years after his first violent attack, Mark O'Leary pled guilty to 28 counts, including rape and other felonies.
We're asking this court to fashion a sentence that ensures that this defendant never, ever gets out of prison.
The judge agreed, handing down a sentence of 327.5 years for the Colorado attacks. O'Leary would get 68 more years in Washington.
You've lost your privilege to be free in society.
Facing a life in prison, O'Leary started talking and gave investigators a glimpse inside the twisted mind of a serial predator.
He was taking detailed notes of what he was observing from the Golden victim. He took extensive notes.
Hours and hours and hours, walking around various different apartment complexes.
Who she was, who she hung out with. Notes, for example, when her boyfriend would come over, what she would do late at night. He was aware that she would watch TV late into the morning.
The thing is, when you go into that cycle, you're in predator mode.
He had also broke into her house knowing that she wasn't there and would look at her personal information, driver's license, and that type of information.
You know, after a while, the monster takes in.
This was like commando rape. How he stalked these victims, how he meticulously learned and wrote down and documented what they were doing.
I got some sort of satisfaction out of it. It was like I was just eating Thanksgiving dinner.
At this point, there's really no telling how many victims there truly are.
My firm belief is there are other victims out there. They're fearful of just coming forward, that they won't be believed. I don't think there's any better way to describe the case, the overall circumstances of the case, and what Mark O'Leary is other than pure evil.
These people need to give my daughter back.
The ransom note is requesting $30,000 be put into this account.
His body language definitely indicated that he was nervous.
An abduction at a local coffee shop in Anchorage, Alaska, both perplexed and shocked the community. It kicked off a cross-country manhunt for a suspect who blended in with society, but was hiding a very dark side.
We have a dismembered body in front of our camera.
Samantha Koenig was an 18-year-old girl who had a job, she had a boyfriend, she had a life in Anchorage, Alaska.
Samantha was a really popular, well-loved girl who was living with her dad and her boyfriend, and she had just recently gotten her dream job.
The Common Grounds coffee shop where Samantha worked is what I call a kiosk, only because you can't go into it. So it's a small structure with windows on both sides. It's located in the middle of a parking lot.
It wasn't a job anyone could have imagined would put her in serious danger, but that is exactly what happened on a seemingly average Wednesday night.
The snow was at least 15 feet high. When they plowed it all together, they clear out the parking lot of all that snow. It created these mounds of snow, so you couldn't see the kiosk, I don't think, from the road as you drove by.
Samantha's boyfriend, Dwayne, was due to pick her up at the end of her shift that evening. Dwayne reaches the kiosk a little bit later than he was supposed to be there. And he peeks inside the kiosk, and there's just no trace of her. He drives home, begins to get text messages from Samantha's phone, and she seems very upset, and she's saying, I need to go away for a few days and clear my head, tell my dad. Dwayne isn't sure what to make of these text messages. It doesn't sound like her. He and Samantha's dad, James, stay up and are waiting for Samantha to walk in the door.
But around 3 a.m., someone else showed up at the house.
Dwayne sees a very tall man, dressed all in black, rooting around inside the pickup truck that he shares with Samantha. And he makes eye contact with this individual, and they both freeze. And the man closes the passenger side door and starts walking away very quickly down the street.
Use this area as a meeting place because this is where my daughter was taken from.
James immediately knew something was very wrong, and he went to the kiosk the next morning. He began passing out flyers. The community mobilized right away, right behind her father, who was out there from the very beginning telling the media, this is a missing persons case. My daughter would never run away.
These people need to give my daughter back so we can get back with our lives. I will do anything. Take me. Don't take a little girl.
Surveillance video soon confirmed James Koenig's fears. His daughter did not leave on her own free will. A shadowy figure was caught on camera approaching the kiosk.
And he goes to the side window where cars normally pull up. Now, there were no cars here at the time. He orders something, because you see her in the video start to make something.
As she was handing him the cup of coffee, she suddenly lurched backwards as if having been just told or seen a gun and a stick-up situation arising. The lights went out, and he crawled through the window of the kiosk.
Samantha had just started her job here, and she was only actually working here about a month at the time she was abducted.
Samantha was abducted from a very well-traveled part of town. There were big box stores all over, and they all had surveillance video of the surrounds of that kiosk. Nobody thought to pull that video for maybe 2 weeks after she disappeared. Had they pulled it sooner, they would have seen what happened. They would have seen Samantha with her hands tied behind her back, trying to break away from this armed man and falling and him grabbing her and forcing her to walk across the street and putting her in his pickup truck.
So now that gives investigators a vehicle. They can narrow it down. From the vehicle, they can tell it was between, a certain model year from, say, 1999 to 2007. They can now hone in on how many of those are registered in the Anchorage area. It's a very common vehicle here. But anyway, it's a start.
And then, another big break for police. Just over 2 weeks after Samantha's abduction, Duane received another text message from her phone. This time, it was clearly not coming from his missing girlfriend. It read, "Connor Park sign, underpick of Albert. Ain't she purty?"
The texts become a ransom demand. And the ransom demand states that there's a location they should go to. It's in a park. It's under the picture of a missing dog.
And the ransom note is requesting $30,000 be put into this account that Samantha and Duane share. The note was odd because it said that this individual had Samantha and that he planned to keep her for 6 months, and then once he got all the ransom money, he would return her.
The note was attached to a photo of Samantha next to a newspaper to prove she was still alive.
Once a ransom demand is made and we know it's a kidnapping, obviously it becomes a federal case. It comes into federal jurisdiction.
Nearly 1 month after his daughter's disappearance, James Koenig deposited thousands of dollars into Samantha's account. Turns out, the man Duane had seen in the driveway the night of the abduction had been there to steal their ATM card. He was now using it to withdraw the ransom money.
The FBI and APD are watching in amazement as just a couple of hours later, money starts coming out of that account.
He hit up several ATMs, but before law enforcement could catch up with him, the withdrawals stopped. At least in Alaska. On March 7th, her ATM card was used at a bank over 3,000 miles away.
There was an ATM withdrawal in a small town called Wilcox in Arizona, and then Lordsburg, New Mexico.
Then Shepherd, Texas, and Humble, Texas.
They're making back-to-back cash withdrawals, the maximum $500 per day across state lines. This is when the investigation begins to sort of take off like you would see in a Hollywood movie. They're watching this ATM card light up, and now they're following in real time.
On the evening of March the 12th, I received a call from a Texas Ranger asking me was I familiar with the disappearance of Samantha Koenig from Anchorage, Alaska. He indicated to me that Samantha had been abducted and that her debit card was being used in Texas.
Police were able to follow the pattern of the withdrawals to guess where the man was headed, and they caught his car on camera too. Officer Deb Ganaway was called in to assist.
I contacted Steve Rayburn, who was a Texas Ranger in the Lufkin office, and he had already produced a Be on the Lookout, or a BOLO, using information that was given to him from Houston FBI. And in that, he had a make and model of the car that the male who was taking money from the ATMs may have been driving. It was a white Ford Focus.
It wouldn't be long before that Ford Focus was located at a motel.
Steve and I jumped in his pickup and went right to that area. And I did a walk around, covertly somewhat, of the white Ford Focus. We went to the office of the hotel to talk to the manager to see if there was a guest registered and associated with that vehicle. While we were in the manager's office, we were notified that a white male had come out of the hotel room and was putting items into the Ford Focus and had gotten in the car and was departing the parking lot.
Police pulled the vehicle over at a nearby restaurant.
And by the time we got there, the trooper had already asked the driver to step out of the car and had his driver's license. The driver's license indicated that the male was from Alaska.
More than a month after Samantha Koenig was dragged from a coffee shop, police were finally face to face with her abductor. His name, Israel Keys.
His body language definitely indicated that he was nervous. He was sweating profusely. The car doors were open. We could clearly see things in the car, that again raised our suspicions that this was the person who had been using Samantha's debit card. At that point, I felt like that we had enough to place Israel Keyes under arrest.
Authorities had their man, but Samantha was still missing.
Over the next several days, he was extradited back to Anchorage, Alaska.
Law enforcement started to put together a profile of the 34-year-old.
Israel was born and raised in clearly a cult-like atmosphere. They had no electricity, they had few neighbors, and they were totally isolated. They were all homeschooled, and they all had apparently a strong religious training. At the age of 20, he enlisted in the Army. When Mr. Keyes discharged honorably, you started to see the first tracings of him engaging in burglaries, in assaults. He fathered a daughter, and he wound up in Alaska and took up a career as a handyman, and was actually able to impress the people he worked for as reliable, as competent, and as generally a good guy.
And the people who spoke to the FBI after his arrest, almost all of them said they trusted him implicitly. He could come and go at will. They had given him their house keys to work on their homes while they were away on vacation. So his arrest was a real shock to the community.
And a shock to the people around him. Keyes appeared to be living a normal life. He was an attentive father and was in a relationship.
Although he would disappear for periods of time, claiming he was off on jobs.
There is no one who knows me, or who has ever known me, who knows anything about me, really. They're going to tell you something that does not line up with anything I tell you because I'm two different people, basically.
One of those people was a murderer. Israel Keyes finally admitted that Samantha Koenig was dead. He told police he sexually assaulted, then strangled her.
Keyes was really a mystery to us, and so he kind of could make some demands because we really didn't have a lot on him. And so in the beginning, to keep him talking, because he was the sole source of our information at this point, so to keep him talking, he was making certain demands, and he, as a narcissistic psychopath, Keyes enjoys that type of game. He enjoys making demands and having them met.
He said, "I'll give you something if you'll give me something." And they were able to agree to some of his demands, like Americano coffee or a cigar.
Well, surprisingly, now there's something else I want out of this.
And Keyes had another shocking demand. If he gave up the location of Samantha's body and other damning evidence, he wanted the state of Alaska to kill him.
He does not want to spend the rest of his life in jail. He doesn't want to be labeled a sexual predator or murderer. And so he very quickly puts the death penalty on the table. He wants the death penalty. In an effort to keep him talking, the prosecutors and the investigators tell him, yes, that's something they'll try to work on for him.
Israel began to tell the horrific tale of what really happened to Samantha after she was taken from the Common Grounds coffee shop.
Israel Keyes brought Samantha back to his shed. His young daughter was asleep in her bed, and his girlfriend was still awake.
The shed was set up for restraint, so it had eye bolts in certain places and stuff that you would tie someone up through. So it was already prepared for what he was about to do. And so he brings her into the shed, he plays music really loud, and he has a conversation with her, and then he ultimately sexually assaults her and then kills her.
The FBI never released all of Keyes' graphic confession.
The day after he kills Samantha, he goes on a cruise, leaves Samantha in the shed. It is February in Anchorage, very cold, so her body freezes. And when he returns from his trip, he hatches a scheme to turn this into possibly a money-making thing for him. So he wants to issue this ransom demand. And to do that, he thaws Samantha's body, possibly using a hairdryer, and then he puts makeup on her face and he sews her eyelids open and then puts makeup over that to make her appear that she's still alive, so that when he issues the demand for ransom, the family has what they think might be proof of life. But that's the photograph that they later find in the park.
It was weeks later that he knew he had to get rid of the remains, and so he dismembered her in his shed. and put the body parts into duffel bags and drove out about 45 minutes to Matanuska Lake. He walked out to the middle of the lake. He cut a hole in the ice. He threw up an ice fishing tent so nobody could see what he was doing in there. He weighted down the body parts and put them into the lake.
It was time to recover Samantha's body. The agent in charge was Bobby Chacon.
In a dive operation like this, if we don't know where the person is, in a lake like this, it could take us a week just to find the person before we start diving. In the Keys case, we were told exactly where she was, and we went right out to that spot and started our search. The lake was completely covered with snow and about 3 to 4 feet of ice. We knew we'd need a lot of strong people because we were going to have to cut many, many holes in the ice to do the search. That's massively heavy. So we drop a sonar into the water, and the water at that point was about 45 feet deep. And so we found right in that area 5 distinctive pieces laying on the bottom.
After dropping a robot with a camera into that area, investigators anxiously waited for a clear picture.
So when the silt does settle enough, we turn the camera on, and we have a dismembered body in front of our camera.
Police finally brought Samantha home.
Divers gathered each of the 5 pieces and then began to bring her to the surface. For us, we try to divorce ourselves from the emotion of the situation. We try to remove ourselves from, what it is we're dealing with, because we have a job to do. All the people that are working for me there have to remain focused on their job and not the horrific tragedy that we're in the middle of.
Now that Samantha had been found and the community had answers, they were able to close one chapter of this case. But really, what it meant for the investigators was that they were entering phase 2 of this investigation.
Phase 2 would take investigators all across the country, starting in the Pacific Northwest. Keyes said that he committed his first sexual assault more than a decade earlier.
Mr. Keyes' first really serious offense, it appears, was the rape of a woman in Oregon who he encountered. And he took her and was able to secrete her in a cabin or a shed of some sort. And he had not killed at that point that we know of, and was in a situation where I think it would have been his first kill. She established a communication and a relationship of sorts with him, and in doing so, she created an environment where it became harder and harder over time for him to actually kill her. He regretted not killing her because she now could identify him. She was now a person who knew him and knew what he looked like and would be able to tell the police exactly what she knew.
The main thing is I just lost my nerve right at the end because that never stopped me after that,
He said that was just the beginning of his crime spree. But to tell the cops more, he wanted something in return.
This is somewhat of an unrealistic expectation on my part, but I was thinking there might be a way to disclose all this information to you and to the FBI. And to somehow ensure that we could work out some sort of agreement that, I give you all the answers on these cases and families get closure, you find as many of them as possible, and in return for that, I don't plan on being around a whole lot longer, but a really big concern to me is, my kid's going to be around. I don't want her to type my name in the computer and have it pop up.
In exchange for anonymity, Keyes helped police solve another violent crime that took place on the other side of the country 11 months earlier.
Keyes described abducting and murdering a couple in Vermont.
Bill and Lorraine Currier vanished from their home in the middle of the night in June of 2011. And it wasn't until Israel Keyes told investigators, "I'll give you 2 bodies and a name," in Vermont, that anyone began to connect the Currier case with Israel Keyes. The Couriers were a middle-aged married couple. They had no children, and they were a very well-liked, well-regarded couple in Essex, Vermont.
So Keyes has described how he was over there in Vermont on a carpentry job because that was his craft.
Just like with Samantha, he had prepared for the killings. In fact, he had prepared for killings all across the country.
Keyes was very meticulous, his crimes were very well thought out. There was nothing that was spur of the moment or, just kind of went out one day and decided to do something. Everything was meticulously planned.
Keyes had kill kits that he would bury around the country in 5-gallon compound buckets. In there he would put a rope, a gun possibly, gloves, tape, all of the things you would need to abduct and kill somebody. And he remembered every place he put them. And so he had one in that area. He drove to it, dug it up, and used those tools to wait and abduct Bill and Lorraine Currier.
The night Mr. Keyes broke into the Currier's house, he was prepared. He had cut the lines and surprised the couple as they lay sleeping in their bed in the middle of the night. He was able to march them out of there and into their own car. They backed the car out of the garage and drove off to another part of Essex and were never seen again.
Israel described the Courier's horrific final moments to investigators.
He drove to an abandoned farmhouse across town. Once Mr. Keyes got to the farmhouse with the Couriers, he took them into the basement, except his plan didn't go quite right because he had the husband downstairs. He went back to get the wife, but she had gotten out of the car and managed to squirm loose of her restraints and was running away. He ran after her, he tackled her, and he dragged her back into the farmhouse, where he raped and started to strangle her. Her husband heard this and started screaming, and his response was to go into the room where her husband was held and tied to a chair and kill him. And he later commented to one of the detectives that he was always amazed how long it took somebody to die when he strangled them. This was the way that the Couriers' lives came to a brutal end on a peaceful night in the middle of June of 2011. In one of the more bizarre aspects of this case, Mr. Keyes left the bodies in the basement of this farmhouse, but by the time the police got there to look for the Couriers, they found that the house had been, in fact, demolished. It had been packed up into the back of pickup trucks, and the remnants of the house had been hauled off to a landfill.
I told you from the get-go, before I told you where the freaking bodies were left, I told you that I didn't want the locals involved. And the first thing you do is make a big scene and do a big freaking archaeological dig right alongside the main road.
One of the local TV stations actually did find out about the case, and they found out who he was, and they broadcast the details that this guy from Anchorage had been revealed as the likely killer of the Couriers. And he found out that that was the case, that it had been broadcast. When that happened, it was a betrayal from his point of view of a deal that he had with the local police to not reveal him.
I know it was more than one thing that caused the whole thing to get out of control. I know that if the house had still been there and it all just been neat and wrapped up in a couple days without doing a freaking landfill dig, yeah, it would have made it easier, but that's not, the fact is there are different things that happen the way they happen. And now I don't know what's going to happen with all this information I'm giving you. And you know I'm not just talking about the Couriers.
Keyes had asked for a death sentence, but before he could be tried, he took matters into his own hands, slashing his wrists before hanging himself in his cell on December 2nd, 2012.
Before Keyes committed suicide, he told the FBI he had killed less than 12 people. Other agents who worked this case believe the number is far higher.
Over the summer, New Hampshire authorities investigating the murder of Selena Cass took a look at Israel Keyes. Selena Cass was abducted from her home in New Hampshire in July 2011, a month after the Vermont murders.
Keyes would routinely boast to the FBI, you'll never find another victim without me.
He penned a suicide note, which police dubbed a creepy ode to murder.
Okay, talk is over, words are placid and weak. Back it with action, or it all comes off cheap. Stars you idolize Pursue what you admit is a dream, then it's American die.
In it, he offered no help in solving other crimes, taking his secrets to the grave, and leaving many to wonder just how prolific of a madman he really was.
It's the final way of flipping off the rest of us, that this is a guy who could have helped us and chose not to in the end, and it was the ultimate power play that this psychopath was able to execute.
The problem is nowadays, the more stuff my name is attached to, the more likely it is that somebody's going to try to do some kind of stupid frickin' TV special, or you know how it is nowadays, like with all this true crime bullshit.
Hello?
Melissa?
Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
Do me a favor?
Yeah?
Sit down.
Okay.
Sit down.
I am.
We just got the guy who confessed to the Superbike killers.
On the morning of November 6th, 2003, in the small town of Chesney, South Carolina, a man walked into a motorcycle dealership, shot the owner, his mother, and 2 employees. The cold-blooded killings became known as the Superbike murders. The mystery of who pulled the trigger would puzzle investigators for 13 years, until muffled cries from inside a padlocked storage container unearthed the dark secrets of a deranged criminal.
Go.
I'm originally from a small town, Safford, Arizona. I moved to South Carolina after I met Scott.
Scott Ponder, the owner of Superbike Motorsports.
He had a fun personality, somebody that had the ability to make a lot of people laugh. We knew we were going to get married. We lived in a very rural area of Spartanburg County. We were out, kind of in the middle of forest and hills and cow pastures, which was a very odd place to put a motorcycle dealership, except it was family land. Superbike Motorsports was Scott's dream as a young boy. It just started as something really small in the back garage of his grandma's home that ended up becoming something really big.
Have a Suzuki summer and get into Superbike Motorsports Suzuki, Spartanburg's largest exclusive Suzuki dealer.
It was one of those environments that you could bring your little kid to, and they could run around and sit on some of the merchandise, and it was just a fun place to hang out.
And a fun place to work. Scott surrounded himself with close friends and family, including his mother, Beverly Guy, who worked at the shop.
Beverly was very close to Scott, and she was very protective of her only child. And when I came in the picture, she just kind of took me in right away and made me, the daughter she had wanted for her son. Brian Lucas was Scott's service manager and one of his closest friends. Chris Sherbert was more of a mechanic.
They were all hard at work when an armed assailant walked through the door.
I was at work November 6th of 2003. Scott and I both had a client of ours, and she called me in the afternoon letting me know that she tried to get to the dealership and that she couldn't get there because there were law enforcement vehicles everywhere blocking the road. Immediately I started calling the dealership, getting the answering machine. I pulled up to the intersection, ran up to a law enforcement officer and said, what's going on down there? That's my husband's business, we own it. And then I just started running down, and he ran after me. He grabbed me and said, you can't go down there.
It would be 2 agonizing hours before Melissa learned why law enforcement had surrounded her husband's dealership.
I saw Spartanburg County Coroner's car drive up my long driveway. He said, we had something very unfortunate happen down at your husband's business today. Scott was shot and killed. I mean, I know I just sat there shaking my head thinking, no, that's not what happened. I let that sink in, that Scott was dead, and immediately my thoughts turned to his mother. They sat me down again and said, there's more we need to tell you.
Scott's mother, Brian Lucas, and Chris Sherbert were also killed. It was all too much for Melissa, who was also pregnant with her first child, to take.
We found out we were pregnant about 4 weeks before the incident. At that point, once it all really hit me that I had just lost my husband, that I was pregnant, that I lost his mother, and that basically the business had been wiped out, that was really the point that I broke down.
Detectives were left with few leads.
The Sheriff's Office is announcing today that we are offering a $25,000 reward for information that would lead to the arrest of the individual or individuals who are responsible for the murders of these victims. This is a sketch of an individual that we know was in the motorcycle shop.
He's described as a white man, 25 to 35 years of age, 175 to 200 pounds with dark brown hair. So far, no clear motive has been established for these killings.
I couldn't think of any disgruntled customers. I couldn't think of any incidents that Scott had discussed with me as to why somebody would have done what they did. When law enforcement would ask me about certain individuals, no bells went off with me as far as people.
7 months after the life of the father he would never get to know was cut short, Scott Jr. was brought into the world.
My mom held my left hand and I held a picture of Scott in my right hand, and I gave birth. It was a very emotional day. I truly feel grateful that I was able to hang on to that pregnancy, because under the kind of stress I had, I could have easily lost him.
There is a lot of information coming in about possible suspects, possible motives, and so forth.
More than a year after the murders, detectives started investigating a new angle, a potential break in the case that absolutely no one saw coming.
I was asked to come into Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department when Scotty was about 6 months old. They wanted me to leave my baby at home, which I thought was weird, but at the same time, I actually got excited about it because I thought, they know who did it.
That excitement would quickly fade.
They started showing me pictures of me standing on my back deck with some of our good friends hugging one of the guys. They asked me who he was. I mean, they just came right out and said it. Who's the real father of my baby? They have DNA evidence that Scott is not the father, and I need to come clean with them and tell them who the father of my baby was.
Not only did Spartanburg investigators suspect Scott wasn't the real father, they also pointed fingers at the Ponder's fallen good friend and co-worker, Brian Lucas. And just like that, a new theory took hold. Could 4 people have lost their lives because of some sort of love triangle gone wrong?
In the beginning, I thought it was a joke. When I realized none of them were laughing, and I looked, up at them and I said, "You're serious. You're serious." And they said that they had taken a diaper that I had left there from 2 weeks prior, sent it off, did a DNA test, and the test determined that Scott was not the biological father. What they had done is mislabeled Brian Lucas and Scott Ponder's blood.
As Melissa closed the bike shop for good, she was losing hope that her husband's killer would ever be found.
Today, Scott's wife Melissa says selling off what's left inside the store was a step that she had to take.
I have 0 bad memories in Spartanburg. The only bad memory I have here is on November 6th. This is actually really hard for me to watch this stuff go away. A year turned into several years where I actually would go a year or so and not even hear from them. And truly it was at that point that I just felt like, be at peace. Don't worry about it anymore. If God really wants you to have these answers, you're gonna get them.
And sometimes, God works in mysterious ways.
My son Charlie was a terrific guy. Fun, loving, caring, always got along with everybody. Charlie only lived probably a half a mile from my house. We talked often, every other day, sometimes every day.
That is, until 32-year-old Charles Carver and his 30-year-old girlfriend, Kayla Brown, went missing near Spartanburg in August of 2016.
Charlie and Kayla were dating approximately 2 months. Kayla was living with him and just moved in with him. On August the 31st, he was supposed to come by my house. He didn't come by, and I didn't hear from him. His mom called me and said, "Have you heard from Charlie?" And I told her, I said, "I haven't."
No one had. Not his family or friends, and he didn't show up for work either.
I got a phone call from Charlie's mom Saturday morning. She had already got a hold of the apartment manager and got her to go and check and see if anybody was there, and nobody was home. So at that point, Charlie's mom called me and said, "I think it's time to file a missing persons report."
I was working missing person cases at the Anderson City Police Department. On September 3rd of 2016, we received a missing person report for Charlie David Carver. Patrol officers had gone to the residence and to find that their dog was still there. The dog had no food and water, and there was actually food that had been thawed out on the counter that had been left unattended for some time.
I would text him daily, "Please call me. We're worried. Where are you?"
Family and friends of Kayla Brown were suffering the same anxiety.
On September 5th of 2016, we received a missing person for Kayla Brown.
By all accounts, from everyone I spoke to, this was not like them. Everyone thought that something, was not right. People were passing out flyers, their family members. People just had no idea, where they went. A couple weeks after they went missing, there were these messages that popped up on Facebook.
And the posts were like it was Charlie posting, and the stuff that was being posted was, "Kayla and I are fine, leave us alone, we're getting married."
Daily, I would get reports of social media posts. Some days they would be taking a trip, according to Facebook records. They were expecting a baby.
I knew in my heart that that wasn't Charlie. There was misspellings. Charlie was a writer.
Charlie and Kayla's parents demanded a phone call to verify that they were okay. But as time passed, that phone call never came, and they would learn they were the victims of a cruel hoax.
Nicole Carver was Charlie's estranged wife, and they were together before Kayla and Charlie started dating. It was determined a few weeks later that Nicole Carver was posting those messages.
They had the IP address, and the IP address came back as the home address where she was staying. The one post that really she posted, "Rest in peace, my beloved husband, I'll see you again one day." And I was very upset. I called the detective, and I said, "How does she know this?" It was very frustrating for us because she said that Charlie and Kayla were at the beach. They had gone to Florida. So the Anderson City Police Department were having to chase leads because she was telling them all this stuff, and none of it was true.
And that is why investigators had to be cautiously optimistic when new information came to light.
Around the middle of October, I received a tip that a drug dealer in Greenville, South Carolina, made mention that Kayla and Charlie were buried on a 100-acre farm. He was an acquaintance of Kayla, former boyfriend, from what I understand, and they had spent time together the night before she went missing. We went back through all kind of mapping programs, cell phone pings and everything was placed into these programs. We were able to find a 95-ish acre farm over in Spartanburg.
The massive property was owned by a successful real estate agent named Todd Kohlhepp.
They were able to track the phones and place them in the vicinity of Todd Kohlhepp.
The exterior of the property, it was posted with all kind of signs that any trespassers would be prosecuted. It was an electronic type fence. It had to have certain codes and things to put in for it to open. It appeared that the whole property was surrounded by fencing.
Whenever they started digging into who lived in that area, they found out that Todd Kohlhepp was a registered sex offender, and they started looking into him.
We were able to go to Spartanburg County and ask if the judge would allow us to have a search warrant for that 95-acre property. The judge at the time did not feel like we had enough evidence that placed her on the property on August 31st.
So investigators subpoenaed Kayla's phone records and Facebook account. What they found was that Todd and Kayla knew each other.
There were a lot of messages from Todd and Kayla. Although they were not friends on Facebook, they messaged each other a good bit. There were several messages about yard work that Todd wanted her and Charles to do on the property, the cell phone pings, the Facebook messages, that statement that this drug dealer in Greenville made. The totality of it, we were able to get a search warrant about a week later for that property.
On the morning of November 3rd, with police body cameras rolling, investigator Ezel arrived at Todd Kohlhepp's other residence, 10 minutes away in Moore. She has never spoken about this case publicly until now.
Hello. How you doing?
Doing well.
Oh, good.
When I arrived at his residence, I had 2 Spartanburg County detectives with me since I was in their jurisdiction, and I was there to ask Mr. Kohlhepp questions. I believe I woke him up that morning. He came to the door, very disheveled.
Taz, she's gonna pee.
No. Nervous.
He appeared very arrogant.
These people have not been seen since they were at your property. Okay? Their family, friends, no one has had any contact with them since. Okay. Anybody. Nobody. No one.
No one, not one person.
0 persons has had contact with them.
You probably didn't even realize, did you, that you were the last person?
No. I didn't see any of that coming at all.
He acted like I was stupid and weak, so I played that part. I pulled my shoulders in, I acted weak to him, and he continued to talk.
Did anybody else show up at the property?
How long was Kayla there on your property? I knew because I had their phones there for over 8.5 hours.
She was on your property for more than an hour, hour and a half. Okay. She was on your property for several hours.
The more he was lying, the more I had the feeling that he committed these crimes.
Not trying to be difficult, I just don't understand.
Detectives would talk with Kohlhepp for nearly an hour, poking holes in his story. What they didn't tell him was that another group of investigators was searching his 95-acre wooded property near Woodruff, and their shocking discovery would blow this case wide open. Investigators found a Connex container secured with padlocks, and they could hear the faint cry for help coming from inside.
All that stuff.
This is for our protection as much as yours. Do me a favor, turn around, put your hand.
Y'all move. You okay? Great, what? Go. Do you have any weapons? Coming through, okay?
Alright, this is where we're at. Let's go ahead. While we were here, alright, my sergeant served a search warrant on your property. Okay? We have Kayla.
Just a girl. Just a girl. How are you, honey?
This is bolt cutters.
This is our best friend. He's a paramedic.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get you out of there, okay? Just hang loose for me.
We have Kayla in your property. She was locked in a container. Okay?
I could not believe what I was hearing. I never really expected to find either one of them alive at this point.
You're under arrest right now for kidnapping.
My phone rang. It was a captain from the Anderson City Police Department telling me that they had found Kayla and she was alive. At that point, I thought I was going to see my son.
Do you know where your buddy is?
Charlie?
Yes.
He shot him.
He shot him?
He shot
Who
him.
did?
Todd Kohlhepp shot Charlie Carver 3 times in the chest, wrapped him in a blue tarp, put him in the bucket of the tractor, locked me down here, and I never seen him again.
If you want to help yourself, tell me where Charlie's at so we can go find his body.
He had no response. He just kept saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to need an attorney. Probably a good thing. Go ahead and put him in the back of your car.
There was no fear in his eyes.
In the ambulance, police cameras rolled as Kayla recounted the details of her horrific ordeal.
Charlie, he wouldn't hurt Charlie if it wasn't for me. He put me on the floor, he handcuffed my hands behind my back, and cuffed my feet. Then he sat down in a chair and told me that he was sorry about Charlie, but he had to let me know he was serious, that he wouldn't hurt me if I did what he said.
But he did hurt her. Every afternoon, Kohlhepp would unchain Kayla, sexually assault her, and repeat the routine in the evenings. And he told her there were more victims.
He said that he had another guy, he was just after the guy, and the guy actually happened to bring his girlfriend with him. He said the girl didn't know who he was, and he was going to let her go in another state, but she pissed him off, so he said that he took her out of the building one day and threw her on the side of the building and shot her in the back of the head. He said he buried her somewhere on the land, too.
It was like she was trying to remember everything that Kohlhepp told her over the past 2 months so she could get it out and tell law enforcement.
It was starting to look like they had a serial killer on their hands. And apparently, he wasn't shy about it.
Did he ever tell you how many people he's killed out there?
Story-wise, he's told me about 4. He liked to brag that he was a serial killer and a mass murderer.
Kohlhepp's loose lips were a boon for investigators. One last bit of information Kayla was able to recall gave police a suspect in one of the longest open cases in the state's history.
He also told me that he walked into, a few years back, that he walked into a bike shop and shot 4 people and left, and they never found out who did it.
That sounded an awful lot like the Superbike murders. Was it possible that after more than a decade, a woman locked in a shipping container in the woods of South Carolina would solve that case? As one group began that investigation, Charlene Ezel searched Kohlhepp's property.
I was there for days and days, and we found a body in the shallow grave, and it was ultimately Charlie Carver.
We drove to Woodruff, South Carolina. There was 3 Sheriff's Department chaplains standing on the steps, introducing themselves to us. I knew then.
When Spartanburg detectives took Kohlhepp in for questioning, he was surprisingly forthcoming.
The interrogation room became confession quarters for Todd Kohlhepp.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say cannot be used against the court of law.
Todd told him that there was 2 more bodies on the property.
Megan and Johnny Coxey, who went missing in December of 2015.
Todd said he picked them up panhandling and took him out there to do some work when Johnny pulled a knife on him. And that's when he shot him and grabbed Megan and put her in the container.
He held Megan captive for a little over a month. He said that he was going to let her go, but she tried to burn down the storage container she was in, and he said that she was acting erratically, so he ended up killing her.
Kohlhepp's next admission was a bombshell, a callous confession to the Superbike murders.
I cleared it in under 30 seconds.
You what now?
I cleared that building in under 30 seconds. You guys would have been proud. I'm sorry, but you guys would have been proud.
You know, at the time I thought it was just Charlie. I had no idea that there was going to be 6 other people.
He shocked this whole county and this whole country.
Sheriff Wright says murder is murder, but this case tops any investigation he's ever seen.
I remember Detective LaChica calling me. I had already been put through so much by the law enforcement agency and being a suspect at one time, and I felt like I needed to record that conversation.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah?
Sit down.
okay?
Sitting down?
I am. He said, we got him. And when he said we got him, I didn't quite understand what he was telling me. I said, who?
We just got a guy who confessed to the Superbike killings.
Are you kidding?
No.
Who is he?
His name's Todd Kohlhepp.
The same guy that had this girl chained up?
Yes.
Caleb Brown being found alive and my husband being murdered 13 years prior, those two don't even go together. What in the hell? It's like he's been running around wreaking havoc around there?
Apparently.
Is he involved with anybody else?
Yes.
I could not believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe it. It was almost incomprehensible.
Perhaps even more incomprehensible was the reason he gave for the shooting.
He bought a bike from him, and it got stolen. He went back there and was looking at other bikes, and they were making fun of him, because they were saying it's too much bike for him. This bike's just going to end up where your other one went. And he said he felt very insulted, and that was it.
I know we'll never have closure. We'll always have that hole in our heart, but things like this that happen out of the clear blue sky, all of a sudden one day you get some of the answers.
Answers that Scott Ponder's wife, Melissa, would learn may have been at the investigators' fingertips more than a decade earlier.
His name had actually been handed to Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department many years before. Tom and Lorraine Lucas had a friend that actually worked for the FBI who compiled a list of his top 10 or top 20 customers that he felt like should be looked into just based on their background checks.
One was Kohlhepp, who was convicted of raping a 14-year-old girl when he was just a teen. He spent 15 years behind bars.
Todd Kohlhepp was a sex offender from his background check. Does that equate to being a serial murderer? No. But it's still somebody that has a criminal past. They should have been knocking on his door and questioning him, no doubt.
Spartanburg County Police told Fox Nation they will not be doing any more interviews regarding Kohlhepp.
The very first time I ever saw him in person was actually at his sentencing. Being in the same room with him, it was kind of surreal.
Do you wish to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty to each of the charges contained in each of these separate indictments?
Todd Kohlhepp pleaded guilty to all 7 murders on May 26, 2017, and he was sentenced that same day.
As to each of the 7 counts of murder, he will receive a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Kohlhepp received 7 consecutive life sentences, plus 60 additional years. He is living in general population in a South Carolina prison.
Kayla posted on my Facebook page. She said, "I will never forget the wonderful woman who spent 2 whole months of her life looking for 2 people who probably would have never been found alive, but that you did not stop. You rescued me, and you were the only reason why Charlie's body didn't stay there disrespectfully thrown in the shallow grave."
We had his funeral. It was on his birthday. I still drive by the 95 acres every once in a while. Still hard to believe he's gone.
It's now 16 years later. I am remarried and I feel content with where I am. Scott and Beverly are still alive in our home. I have pictures of Scott and Beverly up in Scotty's room.
I play volleyball, and how I think about, oh, I wish he could be here right now to see me play in these games and practice and get better. Maybe meeting like some of my friends.
I love when Scotty smiles because it's almost like I'm looking just at his dad's face, and it's just great. It's not something I ever thought I would see again.
43-year-old David Spear from Orlando was found shot to death. His truck found here along I-75 in Marion County.
We did have a lot of violent crime in that county, but the killings would start coming more frequently.
We don't have enough evidence to link them all together for sure to even call it a serial killer. All we're saying is they look similar, and we're trying to find out why they look similar.
Each of the men murdered was shot to death with a small caliber handgun.
The main suspects are two young women who play damsels in distress along the roadway.
Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this? I don't know.
She killed with a vengeance. She was ruthless. She's the portrait of evil.
I'm as guilty as can be.
I was employed with the Marion County Sheriff's Office in Ocala, Florida. We did have a lot of violent crime in that county, as well as many other counties in Central Florida.
So it wasn't unusual for officers like Sergeant Brian Jarvis to be called to suspicious scenes, like the empty car found alongside Highway I-75 on May 28, 1990.
When our patrol division came up on this vehicle and ran the VIN number on it, it had come back to a gentleman by the name of David Spears, who had been reported missing just a couple of days earlier. There were a couple of things that were notable upon the vehicle. We noticed that the license plate had been removed and tossed off the side of the interstate, and the interior compartment had been cleaned out, and the driver's side seat was in the forwardmost position.
Spears' decomposed body was found in the woods 3 days later.
43-year-old David Spear from Orlando was found shot to death. His truck found here along I-75 in Marion County.
Neighboring counties would work similar crime scenes. Abandoned cars, interiors wiped down with window cleaner, and decomposed bodies. In June, the naked body of 40-year-old Charles Carskadden was found off I-75. And another man had been found 6 months earlier. 3 men killed, using a similar MO, with more to follow.
And the killings would start coming more frequently.
A missionary named Peter Sims was reported missing on June 7th.
Peter was on his way to New Jersey to visit his brother, and he never arrived. Somewhere around the Daytona Beach area, he disappeared.
And was never found. But his car was a month later. Eyewitnesses saw 2 people running from it after a crash.
One was kind of short and really heavy set, and the other one was kind of taller with blonde, a little shoulder-length blonde hair, and they took off from the other side of the church in the woods.
When investigators recovered the car, they found blood in the front seat.
There was also a bloody palm print on the door handle.
Now, back in the time we were working this, we didn't have any database or anything to connect it to, but we did have a bloody palm print we could use later on to compare to a known suspect.
Sims has never been found, and investigators say if there is a link, it's not obvious.
We don't have enough evidence to link them all together for sure to even call it a serial killer. So all we're saying is they look similar, and we're trying to find out why they look similar.
A couple days later, there was a couple people that came up from the Cocoa Beach area. They were looking to have a picnic. They got out of the car, they started setting things up. There was a foul smell in the air, and they noticed something off in the distance. When they went over and looked at it, it was blue jeans, and it was on a badly decomposing body.
It was the body of 50-year-old truck driver Troy Burris, who had been reported missing 5 days earlier.
He was my best friend and my buddy, and I'll never see him again.
We found some bulletins from our state police, the FDLE, on unsolved homicides in Central Florida involving a .22 caliber, and this was when we started to put things together.
Turns out Mallory, Spears, Carskadden, and Burris were all shot with a .22. It appeared that Central Florida was in fact being stalked by a serial killer.
We called all of the agencies in Central Florida, local, state, and federal. And we had a little meeting, hopefully to develop information that could help us to identify who might be doing these crimes. Shortly after this meeting, we had our 6th victim.
And he was one of their own. Charles Humphreys, a 56-year-old retired police chief from Alabama, went missing on September 11th.
The next day, there were a couple of children riding their bikes in the unincorporated area of Marion County. When they went to the end of this cul-de-sac, though, they saw this dead body, and we responded out there and recovered Mr. Humphreys' body. He too had been shot with a .22 caliber.
Charles Humphreys was found September the 12th. He was shot several times, twice in the abdomen, once through the arm, and once in the head.
We learned that he come from a professional background, retired law enforcement officer, distinguished military career, currently working for the state of Florida as a child abuse investigator.
But he was the type of individual on a lonely road and a long stretch that if he saw a woman in distress with a hood up, then he would stop.
We had one more homicide, the last one, Walter Gino Antonio, and he was the 7th victim.
His body was found in Dixie County, almost a year after the first victim was killed.
Police say that all of the killings have common denominators. The victims were all white males between the ages of 40 and 60. They were all traveling alone through Central Florida and had their vehicles stolen.
Eventually their vehicles were located, and a commonality with that was that the driver's seat had been pulled to the forwardmost position. And also some of the forensics exams of these vehicles revealed that some long strands of dirty blonde hair were also recovered.
But most importantly, each of the men murdered was shot to death with a small caliber handgun.
Police were building a war chest of forensic evidence, DNA, bloody prints, and ballistics. But they didn't have any suspects to compare it to. So they went back to their best lead, the eyewitnesses who saw 2 women running from Peter Sims' crashed car.
A composite sketch was generated, and it was at a later roundtable discussion with these multiple agencies that a decision was made to release these composites to the media.
The main suspects are 2 young women who play damsels in distress along the roadway.
When we started getting leads in, the one common name that we received on all 4 of the first several leads that we got with these people was Tyria Moore. And we found that there was also another girl with her, but there were aliases used on this. So on the first lead, she only went by Lee. The next lead was Lee Blahovic. So we had a variety of different names or aliases, but the one constant factor was always Tyria. One of the leads brought us to the Fairview Motel in Daytona Beach, which is now the Scoot Inn.
Tyria Moore and her partner were living here at the Scoot Inn.
One way they may have been paying for that room was by pawning off the goods stolen from their victims.
One of the things we found was that someone using the name of Cammie Green had pawned items in Daytona Beach. And among those items were a 35mm camera and a radar detector, which had been taken from the first victim, Richard Mallory. Another pawn ticket showed a box of tools, which would have been from our second victim, David Spears. So we located Cammie Green and we interviewed her, and she said she hadn't pawned anything. So we knew this was an alias that somebody was using. Back then, you had to get a thumbprint on the pawn ticket. When we checked the thumbprint through the automated system, there was no connection to anybody. So we contacted the FDLE where the prints are matched, and they did a manual search for us and were able to come up with a match to a girl by the name of Lori Grody. We found that there had been an arrest in this name.
It was another alias, but this time it led to a suspect, Aileen Wuornos, a prostitute who was known to hitchhike across the state.
Florida drivers aren't stopping for anyone, especially female hitchhikers.
I get all these white hairs carrying a gun, hoping nobody catches me with it and put me in jail. I'd rather have the sheriff here in this county catch me with it than them 2 women catch me without it.
We had a photo of Aileen using the name of Lori Grody, and we found that there was an active warrant for her because she got arrested, bailed out, and never showed up for court. So now we had a warrant that we could use. We knew that she liked frequenting the Daytona area. So we focused our efforts on that to try and locate her. We had a number of undercover officers from all over Central Florida go over to Daytona and start going into the bars and the locations that we thought she might be hanging out at.
They finally found Eileen's favorite spot, a local biker bar conveniently located less than half a mile away from the couple's motel.
The last resort is right up the street, so apparently she would just stagger up there, and for her it was a good watering hole, I guess, and she certainly spent a lot of time on a bar stool in there.
She just came in here and just ordered a couple of beers and played a jukebox, and if she had money, she'd stay in motels around there or down at the Fairview or something, and then she'd walk up here. Time War was her girlfriend that she had met at a bar down in Miami. She just hung out with Ty, just nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, it's just a customer.
A customer that police were very anxious to talk to. They decided the safest way to catch Aileen was to lure her out of the last resort bar using an undercover officer.
We developed a plan that she would be brought out of the bar by one of the undercover officers. He got wired up for sound, and he went in and he started playing pool with her and having some cigarettes with her and just kind of occupying her.
Hey, we got something we got to take care of. Just business.
Will you be back tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah,
It's gonna be, you live around here and all that. You always come in the store and stuff.
No. We just, we'll come back around here.
Then them undercover cops came in, and they took and sat down. They finished their drinks, and as soon as she walked out the door, they came from all different directions.
The detectives pulled up. They got out, they arrested her, took her into custody. The detective that made the arrest was using some of her aliases on her that she had used throughout time. She played kind of dumb.
You got another name too, don't you, Cammy?
Pardon me?
You have another name too, don't you, Cammy?
You got no problem, man. You go back to bed.
Go by the name of Lori Brody?
Maybe it was a little bit of shock, maybe a little bit of a role she was playing to try and make it look like nothing had happened. We also put the undercover officer in the patrol car. He put on a little bit of an act as the arrest was going on. And that was all set up because we wanted to see if she would say anything to him that could be incriminating. When they got in the car, she did say something to him. She said, "You're a freaking cop, aren't you?" She had him nailed. She knew what he was.
Honey, you're probably one of these little undercover suckers that's doing some kind of shit that I don't know what's going on. And
Who are you talking about?
like like you watch on 29 and all that shit.
Who the fuck you talking about?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what the fuck what's going on either.
Neither do I. So what the hell? You want to tell me?
With no incriminating statements from her, the best police could do was book her on an outstanding warrant for carrying a concealed weapon more than 4 years prior.
The biggest bulk of this case occurred after she was arrested. That's where the work and the legwork really began.
Police were looking for enough evidence to help convict a very rare breed of criminal, a female serial killer.
One of the things that helped was that when we arrested Aileen, she had a briefcase that she kept with her. And when we checked this briefcase out, there was a roll of paper towels, a bottle of Windex, and a receipt for one of those mini warehouses that you store stuff at. We got a search warrant for that mini warehouse, and we recovered property from 6 of the 7 victims in that one location.
You had so many people that had to be interviewed. A big part of that case, we had to run down Tyria Moore. Where is she? Because we knew that she was with her during the string of homicides.
We did locate Tyria up in Ohio and brought her back down. We decided to use her as a witness rather than a co-defendant.
In any homicide investigation, these investigators will tell you that pillow talk, that's a pretty big thing. People talk, and we wanted that information.
Looking to clear her name, Tyria Moore agreed to allow police to record her conversations with Aileen.
We had her in a motel room in Daytona Beach with a recorded line set up. She sent a letter to Aileen in the jail. And it said something to the effect of, the police have been asking questions and I'm scared and I need to talk to you. Call me. And she gave her the number of that motel.
I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should...
No, Ty,
What if they don't believe me?
Tyra, listen.
What?
I'm not going to let you go to jail or anything. Listen, if I have to confess, I will.
Okay. Yes. Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this?
I don't know. Listen, Ty.
What?
I'll probably never be able to see you.
Yes, I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will.
This was the beginning of the end for Aileen. She was ready to sacrifice her life for her lover, which is exactly what she would do.
I mean, this isn't a joke. We just giggle. I'm being very honest. That's all I can say. The only reason I'm doing this is because, number one, I'm guilty. Number two, my girlfriend is not. She didn't know anything. She never was around the time that I hurt these people. I know what I did. I'm confessing what I did. And go ahead and let me hear it. I just don't.
Some people would start to feel sorry for Aileen as they learned more about her past and the abuse she suffered from her own family.
As far as her background goes, she had a horrible childhood. There's no denying that. She had a terrible, terrible childhood.
Her mother abandoned her, grandparents raised her. So, I mean, she was just trying to survive.
Her grandfather treated her miserably. He would beat her naked and beat her if she misbehaved.
She claimed he sexually assaulted her as well. Later, the convicted child molester father she never met killed himself in prison. By age 11, she was exchanging sex for food and drugs. And in her early teens, she got pregnant, allegedly after being raped by her grandfather's friend. She gave the baby up for adoption. By 15, she had dropped out of school, had been thrown out of her house, and was supporting herself as a prostitute.
When you look at all that, there are some other cases where people have come into the world under similar circumstances, but they didn't become people who kill.
When Aileen was growing up, she had a friend in her neighborhood named Dawn Botkins.
She started with her back when they were just young girls, and through thick and thin.
I wasn't going to judge her. She was a good friend. We did lots of things together.
Aileen had spent some time staying at Dawn's house when she didn't have any place else to go. Dawn stood by her.
She eventually moved in my house for some reason. I know what reason, though. She had a crush on my brother.
Throughout the 70s and 80s, Aileen was in and out of prison for crimes ranging from DUI to car theft to armed robbery.
Didn't hear from her all those years. Then I heard my mom said, guess who's on TV? And I'm like, wow, shit. I expected that to happen, or her to be killed, actually. I was kind of flabbergasted she did the killings.
Wuornos' capital trial for the murder of Charles Mallory began on January 13, 1992. It lasted 2 weeks, and the verdict was swift.
It took the 7-woman, 5-man jury less than 90 minutes to reach its verdict. Aileen Wuornos is guilty of first-degree murder and armed robbery. The 35-year-old highway prostitute is visibly angered by the verdict.
She didn't appear to show any remorse during the trial. In fact, she was very, very aggravated because she felt she would be found not guilty. And when she was found guilty, she had some very harsh words for the public around her.
Then, as jurors leave the courtroom, Wuornos leers at them. Hidden by defense lawyers, she shouts at the last female juror to walk out.
I was raped. I hope you get raped.
She was out of control, yelling at the judge and threatening people, and it was just typical Aileen. She just could not control her temper.
As Judge Uriel Blunt looks on, the convicted killer once again lets her emotions burst.
Scumbags of America.
Outside the courtroom, the widow of another of Aileen Wuornos' alleged murder victims expresses her anger.
I hate her. Loathe, detest, abhor, for all that redundancy.
Do you think she deserves the death penalty?
I certainly do.
And that is exactly what she got. 4 days after her trial, Wuornos was sentenced to death. She then pleaded guilty to the murders of 5 other victims, receiving additional death penalties for each.
How many times do people want to kill me anyway? I'm going to die before this is over with.
Wuornos would appeal, saying she acted in self-defense, claiming the men picked her up for sex, but ended up assaulting or raping her.
I thought to myself, I gotta fight, I'm gonna die. This guy is gonna play with me, and then he's gonna kill me.
She said her confessions to police were made under duress, Her lawyers added that she wasn't mentally competent to plead guilty.
I'm so sick of hearing this she's crazy stuff. I've been evaluated so many times. I'm competent, sane, and I'm trying to tell the truth, and I'll take a polygraph on every single word on those pages.
Those appeals were denied. She spent the remainder of her life at the Florida Department of Corrections in Broward County. There, through letters, she reignited her friendship with her childhood friend, Dawn Botkins.
This is one of my letters. It says, "How's my best buddy in the world I ever wanted to have doing? Hope all is well and everyone else up there too."
Her best buddy would be one of the last people to see her alive. Dawn traveled to Florida to be with Aileen in her final hours.
We had our last visit the night before, 11 hours before she was executed. She sat on a chair, I laid on the couch there. We had a 4-hour visit. It was perfect, never even mentioning execution. We knew that was going to happen the next day. So I know when she went to her room, she was out for the night. They had to wake her up for her own execution. That's how exhausted she was. But we had a good visit. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Aileen Wuornos was 46 years old. Before her death, she refused her last meal, and she refused the help of clergy, although she said she was ready to meet her maker.
A tortured soul who unleashed her rage in a year-long killing spree, Wuornos was put to death by lethal injection on October 9, 2002. Her last words were as manic as her life. "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the rock, and I'll be back, like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th. Like the movie, Big Mothership and all, I'll be back."
Dawn was the one that recovered her cremated remains and took them from the mortuary.
She told me to go to the funeral home and tell them everything to get my ashes. When I get them, the ashes are underneath the tree out front. It's a walnut tree.
Eileen also wanted some of her ashes to be spread at one of her favorite spots, the last resort where she was arrested.
Some of her ashes is at the tree in the backyard, where all them motorcycles are.
There remains a macabre fascination with Aileen, helped along by Charlize Theron's Oscar-winning performance in the biopic Monster.
People kill each other every day.
One of the interesting things about this case is that it has seemed to gain popularity over the years. In Daytona Beach, it's as popular as ever. If you go into the Last Resort bar, there are all sorts of things having to do with Aileen. If you go to the Scoot Inn or the former Fairview, there are things that are reminiscent of Aileen.
This is where they stayed. There definitely is some of the original stuff when she was staying here, to be quite honest. The bed frame, obviously I swapped out all the mattresses and everything when I bought the place. I was trying to get away from the whole name and the whole thing, but obviously the movie Monster did a big boost to people's infatuation with that, whether they relate to him or they felt sorry for her or whatever the case would be, I don't know. But they do call and request this particular room just for that purpose.
There are college courses today that use this as part of their case studies. There are people with a global interest in this, and it is just one of those cases that just keeps growing in popularity versus going away.
As Eileen's case continues to captivate, the investigators who helped bring her to justice hope people don't forget those who were caused so much pain.
Every time someone was killed, there was a family left behind. And no matter what happened to Aileen, execution or not, they'll never get that family member back.
It never goes away, and I feel like, yes, this would be some closure. It's not going to end my feelings.
She killed with a vengeance. She killed with a rage. She was ruthless. Every victim was a total stranger. She's the portrait of evil.